What's going on, U.S. History people? We got video 27 for you today. This one is on immigration. Very important topic, guaranteed to be on your exam. So let's get started. Mr. Lawrence, start us off telling us about reasons for immigration to the United States.
All right, so we're specifically talking early American history and as we industrialize. So really the first 100, 150 years of American history, what are reasons why people are coming to this country? So a couple different things you need to know. Kind of the basic reasons why people emigrate, leaving their country and coming to the United States. First of all, we're talking political freedoms. We know that throughout the world, not every place is an open, free society, democracy. So people are leaving places specifically in Europe that have very strict political regulations and are looking for more political freedom. So they're coming to the U.S. We also know that people come in search of religious freedom, the opportunity to practice their religion without any kind of harassment from whatever government that they live under or other groups that might live within the same region as them. We also see people trying to escape poverty. People in certain areas of the world live in extreme poverty, and we're hoping to find better opportunities in the Americas. Also, escaping of famine. During this time period in the 1800s, specifically, we saw a major famine in the United Kingdom, specifically the portions of Ireland, where millions of people will be impacted because of the lack of food. The one thing, though, that we really need to star, circle, underline, the number one reason why people will want to come to the United States is for better economic opportunities. People are coming to this country specifically looking for jobs to try and make a better life for themselves and for future generations. Very often, ladies and gentlemen, these are known as push and pull factors. Mr. Norris, can you give us kind of a brief review of what a push or a pull factor is?
So a push factor is something that would be pushing somebody away from the country.
So like a famine?
So the Irish potato famine would be a perfect example of a push factor. And then a pull factor is something that's appealing about the new country. So perhaps a new job is awaiting you in a new country. That could be a pull factor. All right, so let's talk about old immigration. This is really between 1800 and 1880. A good portion of this is prior to the Civil War. And we have about 10 million immigrants coming to America during this time. They're going to come from Northern and Western Europe. Do us a favor and circle or star for us, please. Northern and Western Europe. Places like the United Kingdom, we talked about the Irish potato famine, you have places like Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, Norway, those areas. The two biggest areas are going to be Ireland and Germany. Most of these people are Protestant Christians, although some of them are going to be Irish Catholics, which will lead to some discrimination against the Irish because of their religious beliefs. They were culturally similar to early American settlers. This is something that will kind of separate old immigration from new immigration that we will talk more about. And they settled in rural farms, in rural areas for farming. The Germans in particular did this, and in cities where the Irish tended to settle to work in factories or different businesses in cities.
All right, so following the end of the Civil War, roughly around the time period of 1880 through 1910, we have something known as new immigration. So these are people who are coming to the United States but are coming from different areas and settling in different places. So by 1880 to 1910, we see this new immigration starting. It's roughly 18 million people will come during this time period. So it's a huge influx of newly arriving Americans. And this wave of immigration will greatly change how the United States is. Most came from areas of Southern and Eastern Europe. So regions or countries that we know today as Czechoslovakia. We have Greeks, we have Hungarians, Italians, Polish, and Russians. Also during this time period, specifically on the western coast, we see more immigration from Asia. One of the largest areas of immigration was from China, but we also saw Japanese immigration on the west coast as well. Now, this group was different because they did not assimilate or really reflect what early American settlers were. So many of them were Catholic. We had Jewish immigrants and other Orthodox Christian groups. They were often culturally different from earlier settlers, as we already mentioned, so they will face more discrimination and have a bit of a more difficult time assimilating into American society. Most of these new immigrants during the period of new immigration will settle in large cities. So again, as we've talked about, with industrialization comes urbanization, and when people are coming looking for new job opportunities, they will settle where those job opportunities are, very often in big cities. So this wave of immigration, as we said, reshaped the American population. By 1910, close to 1 in 12 Americans will be born outside of the United States.
All right, so reactions against immigration. This is an incredibly important slide. Make sure you understand this. What we're going to see is a rise in nativism or distrust, dislike, hatred of foreigners. This is a belief that native-born Americans were superior to newly arriving immigrants. I can't stress enough how important it is to know this term. They believe that newly arriving immigrants, their language, their religion, and tradition would negatively impact American society. And we've really kind of seen this in cycles throughout American history, whether it's the Irish in the 1840s, the Italians in the 1920s, and different groups we will study. This has been a continuing trend throughout United States history. The Know Nothing Party will emerge in the 1840s as a political party based on nativist beliefs. They worked to limit voting of immigrants and prevent Catholics from holding office, especially Irish people they were against. The Chinese Exclusion Act was passed in 1882 that restricted Chinese immigration, did not allow for any Chinese to immigrate into the United States. This was the first ban in American history on immigration of a specific group. Jumping ahead to 1921, we'll talk more about this when we get to the 1920s, but the Emergency Quota Act of 1921 limited the number of immigrants to 350,000 per year. 3 years later, this is going to be an even further reduction of immigrants to the United States and will favor Northern and Western Europe. And we'll talk more about those in the 1920s. So just be familiar with the idea that nativism is something that the United States has experienced every time we have a wave of immigrants coming to the United States.
All right, so let's quickly recap immigration during industrialization. Reasons for immigration to the U.S., very important. Please, though, specifically, no, economic opportunity. It's one of the number one reasons why people come to this country throughout American history. It's for better economic opportunities for themselves and for their families. We need to know what old immigration is, specifically what regions. So Northern and Western Europe compared to new immigration, where it was mainly from Eastern and Southern Europe. Also, we see settlement from Asia. And much of these settlers will settle in big cities. Industrialization leads to urbanization, as we've talked about, with the growth of those big cities and the reaction to immigration, as Mr. Norris said. Know this idea of nativism, the Know Nothing Party's Chinese Exclusion Act, and also know this reaction negatively to large groups of immigrants coming to the country is not something new. It is something been around throughout American history, unfortunately.
All right, guys, look forward to see you back here for video 27. Thanks for watching. Best of luck on all your exams, especially the Regents in June, and have a good day.